Welcome to the Fusion Cell Podcast, The Military Effect. I'm your host, Jack Heath. Fusion Cell, the founding mission was and still is to this day, the mission bridging the gap between military talent and the civilian workplace. Seneca Newkirk, who's one of the senior folks for Fusion Cell, joining us on The Military Effect. Seneca, thanks for being with us.
Yes, good afternoon. Happy to be here.
Well, you're one of the senior career folks with Fusion Cell, but I want to start about your story of service yourself. That's what's a real differentiator with Fusion Cells. A lot of the folks, the backbone of the company, are military, are veterans, are folks who saw active duty and deployment in many cases, and you're part of that from flying helicopters for the military. Tell us about your story of service, Seneca.
Yes, absolutely. So fortunate enough to be able to serve in the Army. I just retired this past November, did 20 years right on the button. I was also fortunate enough to become a helicopter pilot. I was able to choose the premier attack helicopter in the world, the Apache, the AH-64. I always wanted to give back, so I decided to take the track as an instructor pilot, rose through the ranks, and eventually got to the point where I got to teach other instructors how to teach the brand new guys how to fly the helicopter. So definitely very rewarding. Spent many years deployed, almost 4 years over in combat, probably about 900 combat hours, 300 missions. Iraq,
Wow.
Afghanistan, Syria, kind of been all over the place, got the coffee mug and the T-shirt, and happy to be back home, though.
Where's home originally, Seneca?
I'm originally from Northwest Indiana, not too far out of Chicago.
Where did the bug or the seed for service come from? Does it run in your family? Was it something that came to you as you got older?
Yeah, actually, I didn't really have too many influences in the military. I did have an aunt communicated with probably once or twice a year, so we weren't very close, but she served in the medical corps in the Army. But I think it was just a call to service, just wanting to give back, wanting to do something bigger than myself. That was really the true draw. I ended up joining the Army about 2 weeks before September 11th. So at that time it was, I'm going to serve my country. It's going to be more humanitarian. Never thought we were going to go to war, let alone be there for 20 years throughout my entire service. But if I could change anything, I probably wouldn't change a thing, to be honest.
Seneca, so how many years again total in the Army?
20 years.
20 years, and thank you for that. Thank you for your service.
Thanks, Jack.
Before I talk about one of the programs that you're passionate about, I want to keep it in general terms. What's your thoughts on leveraging your own military experience or another veteran's military experience to the corporate sector or corporate jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking about a veteran moving into corporate, definitely a little bit different, but there's a lot of crossovers. For instance, as veterans, we're successful a lot of the times because we prepare. We prepare for challenges. We're constantly doing training events. We're doing drills. We're practicing scenarios that could happen to include like what's likely or what's even least likely. We go through all those scenarios. So no different for that military professional when they enter the corporate world. They're going to do all the research on the company. We're going to make sure it's going to be a good fit, not only for our client, the company, but also for the service member that's transitioning. Some of the soft skills that we have, which are instilled on us very early, are just the values. Coming from the Army, it's loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, to name a few. And one I really think about is selfless service. Even here at Fusion Cell, and when I was in the military, it seems no different. There's certain times when we maybe have to give a little extra. We have to go a little extra mile to accomplish whatever the mission or whatever the goal is for that quarter or for that month. And as a veteran, we're always willing to jump on that, to ride the train and put in a little extra time in the weekend just to make sure that we're successful as a company, which is, I think, really important for the corporate world.
Seneca Newkirk, you're listening to one of the cellmates of Fusion Cell, The Military Effect. I'm your host, Jack Heath. Seneca, I want to stay with that for a moment. In terms of leveraging what is innate to a member of the military, team, selflessness, service, work hard, show up, do your job, care about the mission. Those are things that are very rare in the civilian world. And I would think most corporations and businesses would want those attributes in their company. Is that something that when you talk with veterans and helping them transition, that you should tell them that don't take that stuff for granted because it's a special trait you have? It's character, it's virtue, it's selflessness, and that's what you could help a company become a better business. Is that important to share?
It's incredibly important, Jack, and for the reasons that you mentioned. A lot of times, service members, we do get the thank you for the service, and we're very appreciative of that. But some veterans don't even know how to take that. It's our job. We signed up for this. We enjoy what we're doing. We enjoy supporting our brothers and sisters in service. So when it comes time for us to transition, we kind of feel maybe sometimes that imposter syndrome. Maybe we're not going to be a perfect fit for this role, but it's all those intangibles, all those attributes. Our candidates, our military members have the qualifications. So as long as we can display those, whether it's through a resume or through our senior career agents when we present these candidates, having those soft skills are sometimes more important than the hard skills that certain companies are looking for.
The other thing is leadership, right? I mean, in the military, Seneca, when you were flying an Apache attack helicopter or doing anything, sometimes you had to be a leader. You had to stand up and lead. And I have had the benefit and blessing of working with a lot of Navy SEALs. And, you know, leadership is all about their training and who they are. They're also team-oriented because that's how they survive. But, you know, being a leader, not being afraid, and getting up and doing your job. It's funny, when you mentioned the thank you for your service, sometimes when I was with some of the SEALs, they'll be back up this summer and some other programs we do, I'll oftentimes thank them a lot for what they do and have done. And they'll turn to me and they'll say, Jack, no, thank you. We get to ride in some really good aircraft, hop onto some really cool nuclear-powered submarines when we're leaving a place, and shoot some really good guns. So, no, seriously, thank you. But talk a little bit about leadership and how important that is to do well in the military and then afterwards.
Yeah, one thing that's probably different from the military versus the civilian sector, if you join the military right out of high school, you're 18 years old, immediately you're taught leadership. So even from basic training, they're going to put certain trainees in charge, and they're instilling those values, they're instilling leadership. Not everyone gets the chance, but initially from day one, they're starting to instill that leadership ability and kind of pull those qualities out of individuals. The reason why, in my personal belief, the U.S. military is so successful is because of leadership. We have leaders all the way down to the E1, to the private, all the way up to the generals and the sergeant majors and the command chiefs. So we're taught in the absence of a leader, in the absence of direct orders, that we just follow through with the commander's intent. What was the intent behind this action? Well, we're going to follow through and we're going to accomplish that mission. So as an Apache pilot, a little bit different as a brand new trainee, but that's where the training starts.
Seneca, talk a little bit about tips or advice you might have for military professionals considering, and tell us about this, the DoD, Department of Defense, SkillBridge program.
Yes, that's correct. So I was an alum, if you will, of the SkillBridge program. Prior to me getting out of the service, the DoD, they offer this program. Essentially, your last 6 months in service, you can apply to a company that's approved, and if you're accepted by that company, it's essentially an internship. The internships can run anywhere from 30 days all the way up to 120, and in some cases, the full 180 days. But it's a chance for a civilian company to bring on a veteran free of charge. They don't pay them $1. In fact, it's against the regulations to pay these soldiers, but they're there as an internship. So it kind of works one of two ways. One, the company gets an idea of the individual they're getting for the team. They get to onboard this member free of charge. So by the time the SkillBridge is ended at the end of that, let's just call it a 90-day block, the company gets a chance to hire this service member on full-time, which is a great opportunity because just the cost savings, in my mind, it seemed like a no-brainer. And the same thing for the military member on their side. They're going to learn skills that maybe they didn't have in the military but are very important to their new career field or to that civilian company. And they get to do it with a little bit more of a runway, a little bit more of an on-ramp instead of day one you're working and we need you to produce. Now you have, 90 days to get into that role.
Well, again, I think it's one of the great things that they've come up with on the DoD side because a lot of people may not know about it. I mean, it is a true win-win. I think you'd agree with me. Before we let you go, Seneca Newkirk, one of our cellmates, Fusion Cell, tell us or share with us some recent success stories.
Well, there's many to choose from, Jack, but one of my last ones that I had the opportunity to work on is a company's name is Ilias. They have a home base here in the States, but also one over in Europe. So anytime that a foreign military wants to purchase military gear or equipment, it's got to go through a huge staffing process within the government. Long story short, other countries have purchased fighter jets, F-15s, F-35s. But they don't get the same software as our Air Force or our Navy has. They have something that's just a little bit different, less proprietary, of course, keeping the secret secret. So this company installs that software into the F-15 and F-35. So what they were looking for is a couple project managers that could go overseas, that could go to these different locations that have these fighter jets and assist them with a project, uploading the software to make sure that our allies have the most up-to-date and most advanced that the United States can sell them. So this being a success story in the sense that our BD folks, they were able to work with the client. Before the ink was even dry, we combed our network, and we had 2 submittals to them within 24 hours, and those 2 submittals were the ones that were hired. So it was just a all-around good success story. Wow. Our candidates, our military members are happy. Ilias is happy. We couldn't be more proud of this.
Great story. And you know what? You can see it. You can picture it in action and how quick and how much you helped the company, and then also those military folks transitioning into a pretty cool company. I mean, it's a good niche they're filling. All right, Seneca, Newkirk, next time I'm going to go up in an Apache, I'll call you. Thank you so much for being our cellmate. Fusion Cell, The Military Effect, our podcast featuring the expertise of Fusion Cell. You can always check out Fusion Cell, FUSIONCELL.com. The Military Effect. Until next time, I'm Jack Heath. We'll see you then.